Bruce Adams, I think everyone knows me. I see a couple of call signs I'm not familiar with. Craig was supposed to be giving a talk on the GCVTN net and also INVIS antennas, but he had a conflict when he notified me on Tuesday. So for those that didn't get my email, I set up 2 alternate speakers, one of which is indisposed, and I'm the second alternate. So I cleaned up this topic here that I started a couple of months ago on my own. So we're going to talk about the intricacies of online exams. Before I get into all the slides, and there's not a whole bunch of them, a year ago, March, when COVID was really not thought of, we didn't think this would really work, me and a lot of others. But how many of y'all have heard of Ham Study as far as a study guide? Anybody out there? Okay, got at least one person out there. Well, the guy / team that developed Ham Study had been working on computerized testing to make things easier. And for those of us that have dealt with paper exams, you know, it's kind of a pain in the you know what, considering this was developed back in the 80s. So with COVID, everyone started hollering for virtual exams, remote exams, you know, unpracticed exams. So he took what he had, added some features, and we'll show you some of the features later in the presentation. So in about 2 months' time, let's say the end of April, mid-April, online exams started happening. The VECs, the volunteer examiner coordinators, were a little apprehensive, but through trial and error and a whole lot of messages on Discord, it got better and it got better and it got better, to the point now that everything is done electronically. The registration, the exam, the signatures, the shipping to the VEC, and then the shipping to the FCC for final input into ULS. There's no paper involved. And what I found, and I'm going to talk about it later, is that the exams, for some reason, go extremely fast. I don't know why I've been logging this, but the exams take about, we had one that I participated in like a couple of weeks ago. The guy took the exam in 3 minutes, 3 to 15, 20 minutes, because everything's electronic. You're hitting either A, B, C, or D, or you're clicking your mouse. There's no circles to fill in. There's no pages to flip. You wouldn't think it would take that much longer, but every exam is under 20 minutes. What else? We're going to talk about how you get registered, how you get set up, and also how you get into the exam. We're going to show you some of the pictures that I've taken of exams and then what happens after you're done with the exam. So if you have any questions, feel free to just blurt them out. This is not very long. I don't think it is. Or you can send it to the chat and someone will pass on the items to me. Any questions before I get going?
Not in the chat.
Okay, here we go. Turn all the switches on. Well, we gotta. Well, it should advance on its own. Yeah, just hit the space bar. Okay, I got it. Here's the items covered. I'll let you read them. I'm gonna try very hard not to read the slides to you.
Just holler next.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not advancing.
My computer.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
See if you can make this go away. I think you can drag this to the bottom. Well.
This whole bar.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Okay, what I have here is a high, this in the next slide is a high level depiction of how you get started, and the different groups that are involved. You'll see you basically register in Ham Study. It pushes your data over to exam tools. That's where the exam is actually located. And from there, the applicant has to deal with exam tools. The team lead, we'll talk about that. They're the one communicating with the applicant before the exam. And then you have the volunteers that are, or the VEs that help make up the exam session. Okay, next. I'm not sure why this is not working. Once the exam is over, everything, as I said, everything electronically goes from exam tools, from the session, or from the team to the VEC for their scrutiny, and then on to the FCC where they input it into the ULS, and the applicant gets their either new ticket or upgrade. Next. What this is trying to show here, I know it's not the best. This is a screen print of Ham Study. And you can either go to hamstudy.org or hamstudy.org/sessions. It's basically going to take you to the sessions tab there on the top right. Next. And this is to show you all the different exams. This was taken this morning. Now, the very top has a zip code search. That's more for physical exams. In Ham Study, they list online exams and physical exams. So if you're looking for a physical exam, or whichever exam you're looking for, you just need to be careful, and you can read the fine print. Some will say online only, some will say physical. So you just need to be a little particular. And the arrow, I'm not sure what the arrow is representing here.
I think it's just
one slot open. So this was today when I took this screen print about, I don't know, let's say noon. Here's some more showing Sunday and Saturday. And this one, as it states, shows how far out they go, all the way out through August. You'll see that some is with a field day, some are physical, some are remote. So there's tons and tons of exams out there. It's just a matter of figuring out how far out in the future you want to go. Do you want to go out 3 days, 7 days, 10 days? And be advised that whether we're doing it in real world or remote, there's a lot of time involved on the VEs to get ready, get set up, get the. In the real world, you have to get the paper. We have to, bring paper and scratch paper and paper CSCs. But even on the virtual, there's a lot of coordination between the applicant and the team lead to make sure emails are right, phone numbers are right, the pins we'll talk about, so you can get into, so the applicant can get into exam tools, and also the time is by test going to be at 8 o'clock p.m. But I can tell you from our team, that's plus or minus 30 minutes. If the person before you passes and wants to take the next upgrade, that could be another 15 to 30 minutes. But if they don't show up, then you're going to move ahead. So, it's a little different world, but not super hard.
Mike, I have a question.
Okay.
How can you tell from the exam list which sessions are physical, which ones are remote?
Okay. Let me go to the screen. It will tell you. The bottom one says in person, but they can't see me. And the next one says in person. The bottom one on this slide is remote, as is the second one from the bottom. So all three of these are remote, and you just have to just read the title. I know it's not a very good image, that light color on a white background, but it will tell you. And if it doesn't tell you in the, if it does not tell you in the heading, once you click on it, it will go into more detail. It will say who's the sponsor, who's the contact, whether it's physical or whether it's remote. But typically, they've got smart enough now to put it in the title, of the session. So that's a very good question.
Okay, let's see the big remote. The title now.
Okay. So once you're there, once you're in exam 2, you want to go ahead and register, name, address, phone number, FRN if you have one. Well, you will have one. Your FRN, email address, and be advised, the FCC is going to require email addresses sometime later this year. So make sure you have a valid email address. Read the rules. Oh, I got a double verb in there. Read the rules of the team. They'll have a little packet that, you need this, you need this, you need this. And each of the VECs and even each of the teams are different. I can tell you for ARRL, the one that I'm with, ARRL requires 2 cameras, and we'll get into that a little bit. Everyone else only requires 1.
I'm sorry, 2 what?
2 cameras.
Cameras.
Yep, two Zoom sessions. Basically, you're gonna have one looking at you forward and then one looking at your fingers from the side. Make sure you're not slipping papers, and we'll go with security in a little bit. So you want to make sure you get the contact, understand the fee, the payment method. I never pronounce this right. Is it Zelle or Zelly? ZELLE, PayPal, whatever method they prefer or taking, that's how you're gonna need to pay your fee. And then once that's done, you'll get your Zoom info as to time and date and meeting ID parameters. Once all that's secure or obtained, exam tools will give you a 4-digit PIN number. That's basically what get you into the system, and we'll show you the system in just a minute. And some VECs are, at least they did early on, wanted to prove that you were actually studying because of the time element involved. And you got to have at least 3 VEs for each applicant. So I'm not really sure how that works. I guess you could do a screen print of your results, but depending on the VE team and the VEC, they may require proof that you've been practicing and passing at 80 to 85% or greater. And point C is very important. Make sure you stay in contact with whoever your liaison is, your team lead, because things could be fluid. And also, one thing I do not have in the slide, try very hard not to schedule multiple exams. Let me rephrase it. If you're going for your general, don't schedule your general with three different teams, because you can only take an exam once, and you tie up a slot that someone else could be using that particular slot. Any questions? Okay. This is exam tools right here. If you're an applicant, you'll take an exam. They'll ask for the session or the team lead, which is typically like in our case, it's WB9, ZPH, is the call sign. And you'll see that to the far right of the registration or the list of all the exams. And they'll also ask for your 4-digit PIN number. And if you're a VE, you go to the middle box and just type in your email address and your password, and then you'll get into the system. I'll let you look over that. We check driver's licenses front and back. We've had people, I haven't witnessed it, but I've heard, we've had people that photocopy the front and don't photocopy the back. So you're busted, get out, you're not coming back anymore, don't ask. As for the security of the room, we check all 4 walls for notes, the ceiling, the floor, under the laptop, because guess where most of these are taken? And guess which room most of these are taken?
Bathroom.
Right, the bathroom, because it's small. You don't want to have anyone coming in, no pets, because I mean pets will give you an answer, but I guess I could have it on their back. But you don't want anyone interrupting the session. It's proctored, so it's supposed to be a secure location. We do record the session in case there's some discrepancy later. We'll share your screen. You log in the exam tools, which I already talked about. You confirm the applicant's information. We'll go over the rules, not the rules, but basically we're going to mute ourselves, and I'll talk more about the screens in just a moment. But basically, we start the exam, and normally in 20 minutes they're done.
Chris, got a question.
Okay.
Are they forms signed via Adobe PDF?
The question was, are the forms signed via Adobe PDF? They were initially before I got involved, but just as I got involved in I can't remember, Patty, was it May or June? They somehow or other they built it all into the software, so it's all done at one time. There's no emailing documents to sign it and routing them. There's none of that stuff. That's where it was initially, but now it's all done smoothly. And I don't have a screen print of that, but the short answer is no.
DL sent by via
What?
email? DL sent via email?
The what?
DL?
DL.
What DL mean?
No, there's no email. Once the exam starts, there's no emailing of any documents. Everything is done right within exam tools. The login, the exam, the grading, the generation of the 605, the CSCE, the reports, everything is done in exam tools. When they're done, some type of PDF is generated, shipped to the VEC, they look it over, send it to the FCC, and they're done. I mean, we're at the point now, like the team that I work with in North Dallas, they have exams. We just switched to first and third Thursdays. It was the first 3 Thursdays. It's to the point now that we finish the exam at 8:30, 9 o'clock on Thursday night. The team lead packages everything up, ships it to ARRL. By mid-afternoon, everything's in the ULS. They've got their new call sign, they've got their upgrade, and there's no emailing per se. This is what the VEs would see as far as options. This was back in July, I think it was, I guess July, August. So you just pick your session, and then what opens up, I'm not sure, but what would open up is, I'll show that later. Basically, the applicants for that particular session, and it's going to have the FRN number, the exam they're taking, the element, and that's basically it. But we'll get into that in just a moment. This is well, I'm not going to read it. You can read it yourself. Basically, you see the 2 views of the applicant and also the Zoom window. And Zoom has a slider bar between the video and the share screen. You can adjust it. You can adjust it to make whichever side larger or equal, depending on what you want to look at. That's a larger side of a larger showing of the exam. Notice how we're watching the eyes and we're also watching the hands. This is one showing a gallery view, just a different view. Also, I think I have it on the next slide. You can use a calculator. You can use a physical calculator or an electronic calculator on screen, and we just separate them. So exam tools is here, the calculator's here, and they just rock and roll. Now, if you'll note, this brings up another point that I forgot to mention. You'll see the questions that are skipped. It will list those questions that you have skipped for whatever reason. And if you follow that bar to the far right, it will show you how many questions are remaining to be answered. I did not make a note of that. And to answer a question, you can either select the letter A, B, C, or D, or you can use your mouse to click. If you use your mouse, it will auto advance to the next question. If you select A, then you have to move the question up. Not a big deal. Okay, here.
Mike has another question.
Okay.
Typical number of, we have two questions. Is the calculator part of exam tools?
No.
Part of the computer operating system?
For the computer operating system.
Okay, that was for Mike. Andy's got one. What is the typical number of VEs used for each online session?
Well, I'm only active with one team out of North Dallas. She has a team of, her team is about, I'm going to guess maybe 12. We typically have 6 or 7 people show up, but the FCC rule says you got to have 3. But just like in the real world doing physical exams, 4 or 5 makes it easier because people can go to the bathroom, take a cigarette break, you know, whatever happens. You know, the wife may call or the husband may call, but 3 is the minimum. So that's basically what the exam looks like. It's, you know, just whatever, how many ever questions you have for that particular element. And the calculator is optional. You do not need, you have to use the calculator, even scratch paper. We want to see the scratch paper front and back to make sure it's blank before you start. This is what the VEs would see. I believe what this is trying to show is that, hold on a moment, let me look a little closer. Yeah, if you'll notice the 2, 2, and 1, applicant 1 has 2 signatures already, 2 VEs have signed off. Same with the second one. The bottom applicant only has 1 VE signed off. So that gives us a status as to where we are in the whole process. We try to, you know, when applicant 1 is done, we try to get those 3 VEs signed so that one is done and we can just move on to the next one, but that wasn't the case here. Okay, you can look at that. And the signature is the best you can do with a mouse or your finger, depending on what type of device you have. Fortunately for the VEs, it will store our signature. So if you have a iPad or a tablet, you can do a nice signature that looks like your signature and store it. And these other points here, we've already talked about. The notification, I'm hearing that the FCC notifies people. I'm not 100% about that. I do know that Exam Tools has been written, you know, they're constantly making changes to where they notify the applicant because they've got your email address in the FCC database. So once, I mean, I think I read or heard they check the ULS database once an hour. So once it sees that you're in it, somehow or another, it has a form letter. It pulls your email address and says, congratulations, here's your call sign. So you don't have to look it up.
Mike's got a question.
Okay.
What is the VE certifying?
What is the VE certifying?
That the conduct of the exam is okay. VEs don't actually grade exams anymore, right?
That's correct. The software is actually grading the exam. We're certifying that everything was done in accordance with FCC regulations and also the VEC requirements, that it was secure, that it was, we had 3 people, we checked his ID, no one else was helping, he didn't cheat. But yeah, it does feel a little funny not having control of the answer sheet, but That's what everyone has going to. Okay, this is showing the entire session is complete. You'll notice the locks. That's pretty obvious. On the far right side, and I've got a block, you can see different elements, E2, E4, E3. And the very top one, I put my mouse on it so you can see that the person, I think, made 49 out of 50, whatever the screen says. So you can do a kind of a quick recap without actually going back into the system. And you can see the header, WB.ZPH is Jetted Crenshaw. They're out of, as I said, North Dallas. The date was whatever it is. I can't quite see it this far across the room.
30 July.
And notice the tabs. They had 12 examiners and probably 4 applicants. And having that many, all 12 of us don't, well, I do so far. I've participated in 8 exams since June, July, when everybody got on the team. You know, people kind of come and go. You know, they may come and stay for 1 session, you know, to get credit, or stay for 2 sessions. So that makes it nice also, especially if you have other commitments on that particular evening. So the takeaway, or what was I trying to get through all of this? Plan early. When do you want to take the exam? 3 days from now, a week from now, 10 days from now? You want to practice? We found out, since Mike and I have been doing this, and even when Ron was doing it many years ago, if you can get 80 to 85% 3 times in a row with a practice exam, you're ready for the real exam. Be sure to read all of the processes. I make it sound like a lot. It's just everything's done electronically. I mean, there can be some phone calls if you need to be, but you know, how do I get into exam tools? Keep your pen. Make sure you got your FRN. Has the fee been paid? Have they received it? Do I have my Zoom information? And then be flexible. I would say plus or minus 30 minutes, because things may happen with other applicants or supposed applicants. Keep in contact, and then find a quiet spot to test. We had one guy that tested on his front porch, and of course his wife came out and says, "Dinner's ready, honey." So what are you gonna do? We've had people in hotel rooms, of course. We have not had anyone in closets, but bathrooms are pretty small. Any questions? Yes.
You started by saying that many of the examiners didn't think this was going to work out,
Right.
and I kind of get to feel that it is working out for
Right.
you. How did the transition go for you? Any thoughts on that?
The question was, a lot of amateurs, a lot of VEs didn't think this was going to work a year ago, and how did it go for me? I read articles. When you go back to Ham's study, they have the blog of how all this started back in April of last year. I think this team in Alaska, there was a team in Alaska and a team in Los Angeles that were like the first 2 teams. They made it work using the software. I read that. I read some stuff online. I watched some stuff on YouTube. I was just trying to get real assured myself that this was actually legit to the best of my ability. And I mentioned also there's I'm not sure what the application is called, but there's this application called Discord. It's basically a web posting service. That's where they've got all of the busy work going on. The programmers talk, the team leads talk, us regular VEs talk, and they set up processes on breakout rooms or no breakout rooms, and how many sessions can you run, or can you run multiple sessions of Zoom, and just all these different questions that you may think of. Someone has asked a question and they try to document it so that when Rob wants to become a VE, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. He can just go to Discord and read the general stuff, read the processes. And when I last looked at it a couple of months ago, there were only about 26 processes, as far as and this is related to the exam tools. And then 6 VEs had their 6 VECs had their little forum. So I read everything I could on ARRL because the one I was working with. But it took some assurance to get to that point because, you know, it's my license, just like everyone else's license. I wanted to make sure that they were doing it above board. The 2 cameras really helps. As I mentioned earlier, ARRL is the only one that uses or requires 2 cameras. Everyone else only uses 1. I have gotten approved as a W5YI VE. I have not done a session with them, but I've got to get a couple done this year. They also use multiple tests at the same time. Let me explain this. With team in Dallas, they have 1 person, 3 or more VEs, and that's it. When that guy gets done, or the guy or girl, then we go to the next one. So it's 1 at a time. With W5YI and also GLARC, Greater Los Angeles Amateur Radio Club, they'll use breakout rooms, and I'm assuming they've got 3 or more VEs in a breakout room for 1 applicant, another breakout room for another applicant with 3 or more VEs. So you've got multiple exams going on, but it requires more people. I have not gone through that yet. I'm going to try to, well, I have to get 2 done this year with W5YI. So yes, it took some reading and rereading and asking questions and getting, you know, that gut feeling that everything was okay.
2 questions. One for Mike. Does the applicant for upgrade have to send in a copy of his or her license in advance? Or does Exam Tools have some kind of link?
Now,
We got some questions here.
Now that I don't know. I would assume that if you already got a license, someone or maybe Exam Tools is checking the ULS database to make sure it's a legitimate call, because you can pick a call anywhere. So specifically, Mike, I don't know the answer to that one, but it's a good question.
Patty has a question. Is there a cap on the number of slots each remote location can have?
Patty was asking, is there a limit on the number of slots? Yes. If you go back to the Exam Tools listing of tests, it'll show that, you know, 1 slot open or 10 slots open, because they've only got a limited, each team has a limited number of examiners. The team I'm with over in North Dallas, we typically handle 4 per evening. That's at 7, 7:30, 8, and 8:30. Her team is about 12, but we normally have, as I said, 6 to 8. You got to have 3. So it depends on the VE team. That's a very good question. But when you go through Exam Tools, not Exam Tools, well, it's really HAM Tools. When you go and look at the list of exams offered, it will show you how many slots are available. I don't know if Patty was here. Let me see if I can. It's not. Let me go back.
Hold on, wait a minute. Let me drop out of this. Okay, go.
It's okay. But yes, there are a limited number of slots per exam. Okay, go forward. Keep going. I think I was at the verb. Yeah, one more. One more. Also, the VE team has the right to stop the exam if your Wi-Fi drops out. I know it's kind of a pain. If you got marginal Wi-Fi, you may want to look for a hotspot or something else. If someone enters the room, or a pet, or of course, if you're found to be cheating. I have not witnessed that on the 8 that I've been involved with. We have had the Wi-Fi go pretty well. The one I witnessed, the Wi-Fi dropped out during the signature process. He had to keep refreshing his system, but it's working really well. It's relatively fast. You don't have to leave home. You just block it out that time, which you have to do anyway. Go to the next one.
Okay, we got some questions that have been sent in.
Okay.
Probably be better if you come over here and just read them and go ahead and sit down.
Okay. Yeah, Mike's already asked that one. Oh, I've already answered that one. Oops.
Here.
Yeah, I think Bob has been catching up on all the. I think he was catching up on them as they were coming in. Yep, keep going. Yep, whatever he. If I have not answered your question, feel free to either chime in on voice or send it again. But I'm basically at the end of the presentation. I will add, we are looking for VEs always, whether it's physical, like we do it with W cars here, or online with ARRL or W5Y. I can tell you with ARRL, they sent out a note 2 months ago that they had some type of exam maker software, and I don't know about that. But anyway, they are not supporting their exam maker software, which basically generated the paper exam. So before too very long, all of the ARRL exams will be online.
Patty said, great job.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for stepping up.
Do have one business announcement for the group.
Come on.
Yep.
Got a business announcement.
You got that. Very good.
Look at that camera right there.
Yep. Got it. Just simple announcement, Robert Dallins, our immediate past treasurer, his wife passed away earlier this week. Tomorrow at 2:00 in the afternoon is the funeral service at Heritage Gardens, just south of 285. If you can make it, be a good deal. Thank you.
Okay, that's it from this end. Any other questions? And if you think of other questions later, you know how to contact me. badams138@yahoo. Or you can drop it through the contact us via the website.
Send you a text at 3 a.m.
My radio auto shuts down. It goes on silent at 9 p.m.
At 8 o'clock, 8 to 8, shut down.
Rob said he was going to send me a text at 3 in the morning. I said, he can send it, but my phone auto shuts down or goes auto silent at 9 p.m. All right, I want to thank
mine in the kitchen frequently.
I want to thank Bob and Steve for setting up the YouTube. That's our church. Setting up the Zoom equipment here. We have how many? 5 of us here at the church and about a dozen online. Okay, next month is supposed to be Rich, I believe. Is that correct?
You believe correctly.
Okay, he's going to be talking about CW.
The CW Academy.
CW Academy. And we have feedback, so I will terminate the session. Have a good weekend.